Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the Book That He's Read This Week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is this one. It's called The Hawk is Dead by author Peter James. It was published as a hardback by Macmillan here in the UK on the 21st of October 2025, and helpfully tells us on the front cover it's a Grace thriller. So it's another adventure for Brighton's busiest detective, Detective Superintendent Roy Grace. 21st Roy Grace book. Full transparency, I've read the previous Roy Grace books. I like the Roy Grace books, regard Peter James as a good author, so I was looking forward to this one coming out. It's fair to say this is probably Grace's biggest case yet, and what's it all about, I hear you say? Well, the story kicks off with a royal theme, and Queen Camilla, and it's still strange saying that, but Queen Camilla is heading to Sussex to visit some. She's doing a tour of some hospices, and she's excuse me. She's travelling on the royal train from London to Brighton. All is going well. It's proceeding well. When all of a sudden disaster strikes, the train is entering a tunnel on the outskirts of Brighton and is derailed. Camilla and her entourage they managed to get them off of the train safely, but and as you can imagine, everybody and their dog is running to help. But as they exit the tunnel, there's an absolute tragedy where one of Camilla's staff, a guy called Sir Peregrine Greaves, who's a private secretary to King Charles and Queen Camilla, is shot. That's a sniper. Panic ensues, and obviously the people protecting Queen Camilla are trying to get her out of danger, and because it happened in Sussex, even though it's on railway property and it's technically British Transport Police, head of major crime in Sussex, Roy Grace is called to the scene to try and find out what's going on. They managed to get Queen Camilla to safety, to a safe place. But of course, it's, the whole world is now looking at this and wondering what on earth's going on. This is not just a local matter. It's not even a national matter. It's an international matter, because it looks like somebody's tried to kill Queen Camilla. Grace and his team get to work. He's working with his usual sidekick, Glenn Branson, and they get the forensics guys out there, the ballistics guys, and they quickly find out that the shot was probably taken from about 300 yards away, which puts it into sort of trained sniper territory. By doing a series of forensic calculations, they work out more or less where the sniper was hidden, and sure enough go to the scene. And there are scenes where grass has been flattened, he's clearly been laying on that, but it's clearly a professional. There's no sign of any detritus or any forensics from the bullets. So all of a sudden the Met Police are on this as well, because obviously this is a national emergency. So there's a little bit of to and fro between Grace. Grace thankfully gets the help of his ACC, his boss Nigel Downing, who's supporting him and saying, look, Roy, you'll be with the SIO on this case. And the enormity of this hits Grace because, as I said, this is not just a local incident, it's an international incident. And off he goes to try and find out what's going on. Everybody is assuming somebody is trying to assassinate Queen Camilla, but Grace isn't so sure, because he thinks, well, hang on, this guy's a professional sniper, and he's shot the secretary, the private secretary, instead of the Camilla. Then that's probably who he was aiming at. So is there something else going on here? And thus the tale unfolds, and we find Grace in the very centre of the British state. He has to visit the Buckingham Palace. He has to speak to King Charles and Queen Camilla and speak to their staff to try and find out if there's anything that would lead to somebody trying to kill Sir Peregrine. Sir Peregrine previous worked in intelligence and was known as the Hawk, hence the title, The Hawk is Dead. So we have an engaging tale. We have Grace and Branson in the very, very centre of the British state, talking to people who work in the royal household, and we become aware that there's a lot of renovation going on at Buckingham Palace, and part of that renovation is that various almost, unfathomable, expensive works of art are being moved on a day-to-day basis, and not everybody is entirely sure what's what and what's and where they are. So there is scope there for things to go wrong, if you will. So thus the tale unfolds, and we have Grace convinced that Queen Camilla wasn't the target and trying to find out why Sir Peregrine has been assassinated. We get into Sir Peregrine leaving cryptic clues, which bizarrely Cleo, Grace's wife, helps to solve. And we also see Grace engage in former hacker, dark web superstar Shannon Kendall, who featured in a previous Grace book, One of Us is Dead, getting her out of prison on license to try and help with the dark web side of this matter, because it appears to be that something somewhere is going wrong with the treasures that are in the royal collection, and he needs somebody who's got knowledge of the dark web to try and dig deep into that sort of world. So it's usual. It's Peter James' story. It's a police procedural. There's plenty of action towards the end of the book where the good guys are chasing the bad guys actually in Buckingham Palace. It's very well researched. There's a lot of information about the royal household, how that's structured, the works of art that are within Buckingham Palace and how they are organised. As usual with a Grace book, at the start of the book, he says, struggling to find it, we have maps of, he says once again struggling to find, we have Brighton, but we also have maps, in this case, of Buckingham Palace. So I said, well researched, well documented. So why am I being slightly hesitant with this? Well, I guess, I've read all the Grace books. I like Roy Grace. I didn't feel this one flowed as well as some of the previous books. It's a difficult gig. You're talking about real life people who are actually the king and queen. So you're putting words to what they would have probably said. Their servants, what they would have probably said. So that's a difficult gig, so I get that. I just felt it wasn't quite as smooth and easy to follow as some of the previous books. But nevertheless, it's an engaging tale, and I said, well researched, plenty of action towards the end. But if I'm honest, probably not one of not one of the better Roy Grace books. As a standalone, it's fine. If you're a Grace fan, you'll read it and think, yeah, that's all right, Roy Grace again. But I was just, I suppose, a little bit disappointed. And maybe it's the subject matter, because there's a lot in here about the royal family, the royal palaces, the royal treasures, and not everybody is going to be wildly excited about that, let's be honest. But as far as the book goes, as always with Peter James, well written. A good story, engaging story. As I said, just a little bit. I just felt with this one, it was just maybe not as good as some of the previous ones. But hey, what do I know? So that's it for this week's brief book review. 10/10 till we do it again. Thanks for watching. Bye.